Okay, so we have Paul Frew, Alicia McHugh, George Robinson, Colin McGrath. Colin McGrath needs to leave at 1 o'clock, Chair.
No, I appreciate that. Folks, we'll try and motor on then fairly quickly in relation to this, in connection with that. Just supposed to make a preliminary housekeeping. Obviously, we'll try and get through this as quickly as we can while giving members the opportunity. I need to probably highlight as well, I suppose once we get started, just in terms of the complications that will be there because of plenary. Mobile devices, the usual, remind members just of the usual areas. If you want to speak, raise your hand in the Starleaf form, and also then if you can mute any of your devices, and ask the clerk to inform the committee of any notice received from. We haven't received any members.
Here, no.
Okay, right. We can get started. So if we start the meeting. And I suppose the other thing, just before we actually get into the main substance of the meeting, we're in the unusual circumstance of meeting while plenary is in session. It is really according to the processes of standing orders. If there is a plenary division occurs during the meeting, the procedural advice is the meeting is suspended if any member requires to vote or act as a teller. Now, I appreciate, because I think they're physically in the chamber at the moment. I think Robbie, Kelly and Jim Allister will be required to vote. So we would have to, if there are divisions, and I think the problem, particularly with divisions, is likely to be on the bill. Once we reach the stage of divisions, those are likely to go on for quite a long period of time. So we will have to suspend. I will seek agreement then that in the event of the meeting being suspended and not able to resume because of the divisions, that any decisions due to be taken at today's meeting are instead taken via correspondence under the temporary standing orders. Are members in agreement with that? Okay, I'll take silence then as acquiescence. Apologies, ask the clerk for any apologies.
Chair, Kelly Armstrong, Paul Frew and Jim Allister have conveyed apologies due to plenary business.
Remind members in item 2 that they're under an obligation to declare any interest that's relevant to the each committee meeting. Does anybody else have any interest they need to declare? Okay, if not.
Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, yes.
Sorry, Jerry Kelly is joining the meeting as well here from my room. Okay.
For the question, I know maybe just access to hospital appointments, or what can the minister detail what he's going to do to deal with the backlog, substantial backlog?
Paul, I think we can hear you when we're maybe not supposed to hear you.
It's as a result of.
Okay, no member seems to have any particular interest to declare. Refer to the draft minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of December 2021, which are pages 6 to 10 of your pack. Are members content with the minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, if agreed, then I'll sign the minutes. In terms of matters arising, I don't think there's anything that is, unless any member wishes to read anything, I think any of the matters arising are taken account within the agenda today. So unless anybody else have anything they wish to raise.
No.
Okay. So we move on to agenda item 5, which is the review of opposition entitlements, the briefing from RAISE on the applicable recommendations, and refer to members to the relevant papers at pages 13 to 30 of the pack. I remind members that research was commissioned as part of the agreed follow-up actions arising from the Assembly's approval of the committee report on the review of opposition entitlements, and in particular this will inform the work of the successor AERC in the next mandate, who will have specific responsibilities for taking forward the recommendations that are relevant at 3, 11 and 18. The RAISE paper, which is at page 15 of the packs, includes comparative research findings on the technical political groups, which is recommendation 11, and on opposition access to information, which is review recommendation 18. And I'd advise members that the researchers also identified potential sources of evidence witnesses on both issues for the next AERC to pursue. That's at page 27 of that. So I advise members that in order to inform the next AERC's thinking on how to ensure the necessary research is conducted to underpin a future review of opposition entitlements, which is review recommendation 3, RAISE has also provided a list of academics with suitable specialism in parliamentary opposition. They're at page 28 of the pack. So I'll invite Ray from RAISE to brief the committee and then open it up to any questions. I should say as well, I know I'm asking members if they wish to use the hand function, if by some chance we try and spot a number of these. If you don't, if either there's any complication with your computer or I don't spot that, if you just show yourself sort of physically or vocally in that regard. But I'll hand over to Ray for his presentation first of all.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Good afternoon, members. The research briefing addresses the issues of technical groups, the Cabinet Manual and access to information for opposition parties. The information was initially to be presented in separate papers, but really a relative scarcity of appropriate literature to draw on meant that it was easier to combine it into one paper. And I'll provide an overview of the key points from the paper. I'll try to move through it as quickly as possible. Just beginning with technical groups. As the paper points out, really the most well-established facility for such groups anywhere in the UK and Ireland exists in Dáil Éireann. And their technical groups must consist of at least 5 members and can be made up of a combination of parties and or independents. Standing Orders 163 through 168 set out how such groups are to be established. There are currently 3 such groups in the Dáil, as the paper shows: the regional group, which is 9 members, the rural independent group, which is 6 members, and the independent group, which again has 6 members. And each of the 3 groups has a representative on the business committee. Technical groups do not appear to be entitled to any additional financial benefit beyond the individual allowance paid to independent members. In terms of the Scottish Parliament, standing orders state that members who represent a political party with fewer than 5 representatives in the Parliament and members who do not represent a political party may join together to form a group, and the number of members in any such group shall be at least 5, and again, any such group is entitled to representation on the Parliamentary Bureau. There are currently no such groups constituted under standing orders, although they have been established in previous mandates, mandates 2 and 4 of the Scottish Parliament. So if you go back to November 2012, for example, a group was formed composed of 5 members, 3 independents and 2 members of the Green Party. Now that group didn't contain spokespersons who spoke on behalf of the whole group. And again, in Scotland, there doesn't appear to be any additional financial benefit available to such groups within the Scottish Parliament. In the Welsh Parliament, 3 or more members who do not belong to a registered political party and who have notified the presiding officer of their wish to be regarded as a political group and satisfied the presiding officer that exceptional circumstances apply, may form a group. Standing orders are silent. It doesn't really provide any further detail on what exceptional circumstances are in this regard. And again, such a group is entitled to membership of the Business Committee. The 6th determination of the Independent Remuneration Board of the Welsh Parliament in March 2021 provided that any political party not represented in the Welsh Government with 3 or more members will be entitled to a core administration allowance of £55,390. And the determination defines political party quite widely to include what we would call technical or political groups. And I think in terms of really further information on technical groups, Dáil Éireann probably will provide the most relevant and current examples of how these groups work in practice. And in that regard, it could be useful to explore the operation of such groups with the clerk of the Dáil or indeed with representatives of the groups themselves. I know in the Welsh Parliament there is guidance issued by the presiding officer on the operation of these groups, but it's not publicly available. And again, that's perhaps something the committee could consider approaching the Welsh Parliament for side on. Moving on to the Cabinet Manual and access to information from the opposition. So the basis for this, part of the committee's request was the final recommendation in Trevor Rainey's report, in which he recommended that an official opposition should have adequate access to information from ministers and departments. A more robust approach should be explored through the development of protocols, standing orders or legislation, or a combination of these. So we know that there are already obligations on ministers to answer parliamentary questions, and in addition, the ministerial code and the guidance for ministers in the exercise of their official responsibilities all place a further requirement on ministers to provide information to the Assembly. And of course, the Functioning of Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 2021 placed a statutory requirement on ministers and departments to provide information when requested to Assembly committees. So turning to the operation of the Cabinet Manual itself, which focuses on Westminster, and specifically the requirement to be open and transparent with Parliament, there is fairly limited information beyond what is already stated in the manual. So the Civil Service Code and the document entitled Giving Evidence to Departmental Select Committees, Guidance for Civil Servants, essentially sort of restate the need to be open and accountable to Parliament and its select committees. So the Cabinet Manual itself was published...
Ray, sorry, unfortunately I have to interrupt you there at that point. The division bells, I think, have gone, and as per previous agreement, in relation to that, I think we're going to have to suspend the sitting of the committee to facilitate those members of the committee. I think they're actually largely speaking in the chamber, but again, as per the procedures on that basis. So unfortunately, we're going to have to suspend the meeting.